Awesome. Good morning, everyone. I'm Busi from the Transformation Legacy, and it's so exciting for us to celebrate Mandela Day by having a webinar to discuss the pearls of wisdom from various professionals from the Transformation Legacy, women I work with who've done amazing things in the entrepreneur development space and who've also been in the professional working environment for a few years. Today, they get to share their pearls of wisdom, get to share their experiences, things that are pitfalls that they've experienced that they wish they did differently in the workplace, things that have really worked for them that would help any professional to get ahead in the work or entrepreneurship environment. So welcome, ladies. I've got Tokai, Yolande, and Melissa. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Awesome. We're going to kick off the conversation by just talking about if there's one thing you knew before starting in the workplace, just one thing you wish you knew before starting in the workplace, what would that be? I'll kick off with you, Yolande.
Made eye contact. All right. If there's one thing I wish I knew was to not be afraid.
Mm-hmm.
I think I spent the first year of my working life just scared, scared of, meeting the deadline or, and my work was quite site intense, so it needed me to be vocal, it needed me to be observant, it needed me to also use a lot of mathematics and software, so there was a lot of anxiety coming into that because there wasn't much hand holding in the beginning. So it was just, you're tossed in the deep end and you need to figure it out. And while you're given the autonomy to do, to explore, you still are holding back. So for those in that space or coming into a new environment, relax. Just relax. Don't be so scared.
But how do we do that practically? Because, when you're going into a new environment, in any case, whether it's work, whether it's a new business, whether it's meeting people for the first time, one of the default emotions, it's nerves, right? So how would you do that practically? Like, how would someone practically manage their fear? What should they be thinking about, and what should they stop thinking about as they go into the workplace? So what type of mindset do you think they need to have to be like, okay, but it's new and I've never worked before, but I there's no reason for me to be scared. So how would you do that differently in a practical way?
Right. So what I do now, if I were to speak to my younger self, then what I'm doing now is just to breathe, be in a state where you acknowledge that this is new. Because sometimes your body just needs to, maybe it's signaling to you that, hey, are you aware that we're in a new environment? So now you just need to acknowledge that, no, it's new. It's okay. Be present, and then just give it a try. So always coming back to that. If it's new, I'm present. Let's just give it a try, and then we'll take it from there. I think that is a useful tool that I'm employing right now, and I wish I knew it to take it.
Sure.
If I can jump in there, I'm so glad you actually mentioned something, and it seems so simple, a thing to do, and that is to just breathe. When we were talking about having this discussion, and what kinds of pointers and hints would we give people, I also asked myself the same thing. What would I have wanted to do when I was starting out in a new environment? And one of the things that not only did I see as part of my research, there are a lot of people out there who say just breathe.
Yeah.
Take a moment to breathe.
Yeah.
And also, so that's very practical. I like practicality. I like practical examples of things because it helps me then envision it.
Yeah.
And the second thing that I just wanted to tag along on what Yolandi said was, it's also about if you're going into a new environment, they've obviously seen something in you that was positive, that attracted you to them. And even from it could even be from an employment point of view, or when you're starting something new, a new skill. And so the other practical element is to lean on what you currently have. There's something obviously in you that's been identified as something that could add value to that situation. So believe in yourself and lean on that.
What Motokai is saying now, making me think about is being authentic. And when someone says to you, be authentic, it can feel like, what is that? What do you mean? You know? But being authentic is the next one Motokai just said, which is just lean in on what you already know. You know, don't try and be anything you're not in a new environment, because that's putting a lot of pressure on yourself. And then you're not going to be breathing. And then you're going to just, you know, feel overwhelmed and all those things. But if you're breathing, you can be just who you are. You know, and believe that you'll become better because you're in this environment, because you know, you're here now and starting this new thing, or you are in this new job.
I like that. I like, you know, when you're referring to authenticity, I think it's something that we talk about a lot, right? We hear about authenticity a lot. But still, when we talk about authenticity, it's almost like we want it to show up in a certain way still. We're still boxing it because we're like, we think authenticity looks strong. We think it looks good. We think it looks steady and solid. But what if authenticity also looks afraid? And being authentic is being nervous, because it is your first time working. It is your first time starting a business. So if you are going to deny yourself the process of being afraid, because that's what's naturally coming forth, then are you being authentic to that journey? And I mean, I see it quite a few times as well, where people are like, I've got this. But I'm like, you don't have to, because this is new. You don't have to, and you don't have to have this figured out, or you don't have to be calm because this is a scary situation. You don't have to. So I think also the flip side of authenticity, and also the flip side of not being afraid, is also when you are afraid to just be in that emotion of being afraid and accept it for what it is, because it's a new environment and it calls for you to be afraid. And those nerves help with you then having the respect that you need to have for what you're about to do. So
Oh gosh, that opens such a huge can of worms, because you know, these words, be authentic, somewhere, somehow, we have, as you said, we've been boxed in. I don't know where it came from, but I guess social media has an element into it. The expectation from your parents at home, you know, that you've gone to school now, or you've done with school now, you know, whatever academic season you're in, you know, and then there's this expectation that comes with those words. Be authentic. Now you have to like, I got this. And that I got this, it puts you in a frame where you're like, okay, I need to be stronger. Now you have these other words tagging on top of you got this. And that's where now I guess you would spiral, because you're like, no, actually I don't got this. Because when you come back to your true self, you're like, Mara, I don't got this,
Yes.
and now you're afraid to be vulnerable because you've already now committed to the statement. So, so you have to just unclutter, unclutter, and be okay with where you are.
Yes, being okay with where you are. Yeah. That reminds me of my one thing that I would share with anyone who's starting a business for the first time, or who is going into a new phase of a business, or who's starting work for the first time, or changing careers, is confidence. Okay, so there's a thing about confidence, right? That we think confidence should look strong. Sometimes you can be confident in something, or be confident in executing something, but internally still feeling afraid, and that's okay. So confidence can coexist with fear. And it's just about, for me, it's about doing something anyway, even if you're fearful, and being okay with the feeling of being fearful. And not thinking that you being fearful means that you're not confident in what you're doing. I think the two can coexist. You can be confident in executing something and still be a little bit fearful or nervous or anxious about it. And that's okay. On the outside, externally, you may look confident and people may not see those emotions that are going through you, but it's okay. It's okay. Let the two coexist. Let the two. So that's my one key takeaway.
Mine is on failure. And I think it's similar with what you're saying about two things that are contradictory, coexisting. I think you can be failing while also being successful. When you're going to work for the very first time, you can feel like you have to get everything right, like you can't make mistakes, that everyone's watching you, and therefore you have to prove yourself every day and every moment. But the truth is, you're going to fail. That's just the truth of it. If you're doing anything for the first time, you're likely to fail. You're likely to make mistakes. You're likely to get some things wrong. But that doesn't mean you're not succeeding. It doesn't mean that you are off course. It doesn't mean that. It just simply means that you're learning, actually. So what I would say to someone who's in a new job right now is fail forward. So don't be afraid of failing, but look at any mistake you make, any moment of failure as, okay, what can I do better? How can I learn from this mistake that I made, or this moment, for the next moment? Because this moment is preparing you for the next moment, but only if you allow it to. If you fear failure, then most people sometimes don't get anything done in a new job because they're so afraid, of getting it wrong. So they end up getting nothing done, and better to get to make 10 mistakes than to have done zero, make zero action. So don't be afraid. Just fail a little bit. Fail as much as you need to, actually, but keep moving. Keep showing up to work the next day. Keep showing up to the team meeting. Keep asking for feedback. Keep asking for direction, and you'll see. You'll start to feel more and more confident about the things you're doing. And even when you make a mistake, you'll say, "Oh, I made a mistake there, but let's keep moving."
Sure.
I wrote that fail forward to me. It builds accountability, because that's what you want. You want to be a person of integrity in whatever that you're doing. Whether you find yourself in a work environment or in an entrepreneur, when you're dealing with clients and customers. When you failed, it's okay. As Mandy says, just acknowledge it. And it's okay, and then you move forward. You build on top of that experience. The next time, after you read the environment, you're going to be better, and you can only get better.
Sure. The thing about failure in a work environment or business, it works so differently from how the schooling system is. Because at school, failure is you didn't work hard enough. Failure holds you back. Failure is shamed. And the people that have failed at grade, it's like, what is wrong with you? And we never really at that level had the conversation of maybe this person did work hard, but they just couldn't understand the concept, you know. So I think it works so differently in the work environment, because even if in the work environment or in business, you can put in a lot of effort and still fail. It's not always a reflection of the amount of work and the commitment you've had to something. It's not always a reflection of that. Sometimes because of the external environment, timing, certain circumstances, you're going to fail either way, even if you give it your blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah.
And if you can just accept that, then we'd have so much peace. Because when people fail, it's like, okay, what could I have done differently? And it's a good question to ask yourself. Self-assessment is always critical, but sometimes there is nothing else you could have done in a situation to prevent you from failing.
And I wish this conversation could be taken to the educators, because that shaming thing, it's still there, and I think it's gotten more and more intense because our kids are also under more and more pressure from a young age. Because now you get great hours, now getting homework, and if they don't get anything right, then it's... So I wish that they could, the educators can be given that way of thinking, so that they can start the encouragement journey earlier.
Yes.
Instead of catching it now before getting into the workspace, having to unlearn 12 years of those emotions and trying to now adopt a new set of emotions, a new way, a new perspective around this word failure. It's a lot to unpack.
There is, right?
Yeah.
And with that in mind, I think, having that acceptance that, okay, things are going to go wrong. There's some areas that you're going to fail in. It creates for the glass half full people. It creates an opportunity. So I think understand that yes, there's going to be challenges, there's going to be failures beyond your control at times, but looking at it positively, seek the opportunities in those. So even in educating our the generations after us and equipping them, it's key to inform them that when you do fail, look out for the opportunities that you're able to lift yourself out of that. Embrace it, embrace what's happening, embrace the challenges, and embrace that time, perhaps, as a time to learn. Take it as a learning opportunity. And it also then speaks to another point which I thought would be a helpful pointer, is that if you have the attitude that, okay, I'm trying to learn here, I won't be good at what I'm doing. I remember the other day, Yolandi, you said it's not about seeking perfection. Progress. Yes, exactly. So if you come across those failures, don't see it as something that's taking you back, but rather embrace it as a place where you can learn. You can then shift and see how you can progress from there. So just
keeping that in our minds, I think, is also quite helpful and quite key in going forward. And it can be applied in business, in the professional workplace, in everything that we do.
Yeah.
I feel that could be a good application.
And it ties so nicely to what Mandisa said about authenticity, because if you already go into something knowing that I could fail, I'm gonna try this out, I'm gonna do this, but I could fail or I could succeed, it could go either way, then you express yourself fully and you are true to yourself, because you're not just doing this to succeed, but you're doing this to give it your very best, So I think it's definitely one of the nuggets that could help anyone starting in a workplace, just going there knowing that you could fail and express yourself fully, and it's okay.
And it's okay.
Yeah. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. Yeah. Perhaps also share, we said we'll share like the top 3 top 3 things that you think anyone entering the workplace or entrepreneurship space would need to know based on your experience. And it's hard to have a top 3, right? Because there's so many things that all of you have learned in your journey. It needs like a whole day seminar.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna go to each one of you and let's discuss your top 3s.
Okay.
I have my top 3 in mind, and it was hard to filter, but I had to come up with a top 3. I'll start off with you, Mandisa.
Okay.
What is your top 3?
All right. Number 1 was a failing forward.
Yes. Yeah.
And just embracing the concept and idea of failing. It's not easy because I think, as you said so well, from grade 0 to grade 12, even university, we're actually told not to fail. And then all of a sudden, you're told no, fail, because that's how you learn. But work with yourself to just embrace that eventuality. Because it's not a possibility, it will happen. And therefore, think about how will I use, to the best of my ability, my failures as springboards to the next step. Calm seas don't make a good sailor. So failing is actually a way of also refining you. You develop traits like resilience, which means you can sit through tough things and keep going. And only a challenge or a failure can help you learn that and practice it. And we need resilience, whether we are starting out in our personal lives or we are starting out in business. You need resilience because you're going to face different kind of challenges. So that's the first one. I won't go too much into it because we've already unpacked it. Number 2 is, so I think 5 years into working, I learned about mentorship and sponsorship. And I was like, what are these concepts? So mentorship is about identifying somebody or persons where you work, outside of where you work, in your team, outside of your team, who you want to learn from, right? And you can formally ask somebody to mentor you, or you can let it happen organically by building a relationship with them, spending time with them, being interested in their work, the things they are good at, and their why, like their purpose in life. And you start to see the relationship moving in the direction where you can now ask for guidance. And that's how you get mentored. So you can get a mentor, you can ask for a mentor, you can apply for mentorship online. There's many programs. I really encourage that. Look for mentorship opportunities and put yourself out there, because you'll meet people that you would never come across. People who are doing work you would never think of doing. but because you put yourself in that position, you are now opening yourself up to all these gems and all these insights. Sponsorship, you can't actually apply for sponsorship. Right? A sponsor in a workplace is somebody who notices you and then says, I'm going to mention this person's name in the rooms that they don't have access to yet.
Yes.
So it's not a guarantee that you'll find a sponsor, right? But the way that sponsors identify us is because we put ourselves out there. The chance at work for someone to chair a meeting, raise your hand and say, I can take a stab at it. You know, there's a chance to present something and it's open up to everyone, raise your hand. People, the visibility, people can see your work, can see your personality, can see your ethic, your skills, your abilities. Then they can, when they are thinking about, okay, who can I put forward for a project, for a promotion, for a developmental program, then you come up because they've seen you. Right? So, as an introvert, I'm saying to fellow introverts that do not get too comfortable in being a wallflower. You know, it doesn't help us grow. It doesn't help us grow. That's every now and then in the limelight as well, and in the spotlight as well. That's how you grow. That's how you get shaped, and that's how you meet the people who will go with you on your journey. Number 3, I think, ties to the second point: build relationships. The best way to build relationships is to be interested in people. When you're in a conversation with somebody, speak less. Ask genuine questions about them. How did you decide to do this? How did you learn to think this way? Why is this the way you approach life? You know, that's how you build rapport, that's how you build relationship with people. And sometimes even you'll find someone says they have a difficult relationship with their manager, and really it's because there's no relationship. They don't know each other as people. So practice that. And it's a good place to start, to practice with your manager or with a team member. Just learn who they are, be curious about them, remember stuff about them. You know, how are your children? How is this? That engenders trust. And then you can start to ask for help. You know, now you can start to ask for, can you show me how to do this? Can you invest in me? Can you support me with this? But those relationships really help because we need people. We need relationships in work or in business. We need people. We cannot get very far by ourselves.
Not at all. Even I know, like, even when you're starting your business, you're thinking about the product or service that you want to provide, the problem you're trying to solve, you're thinking about your customers, but ultimately, you're going to need people. In the workplace, you're going to need people. People to help you, people to nudge you in the right direction, people to give you feedback. Good feedback on this is great, or these are the areas that you need to work on. Imagine if you didn't have relationships, then no one could nudge you and say, just be careful of the way you do this, you know, because that's what contributes to your growth. You grow through people. Love that. Well, unpack your 3, right? After this, we'll have 12. And so Kai is doing notes for us.
Yes,
so
I did. I
we'll
just
be able
wanted
to
to
go
put
back
in the chat.
to all the 3 takeaways and unpack them some more. I'll move over to you, Yolani. What are your top 3?
It was quite a an interesting conversation to think about from the moment you posted earlier in the week, to think about, what happened, what's happening, what is the picture here. So I want to start with the failing forward thing. I want to build on top of that. Where you start is not where you will end up. Whether you are in the working world, or whether you are in the entrepreneurial world, be flexible, and I wanna thank you that Mandisa, you raised the sponsorship conversation, because I think that's what sprung me out of what I studied, and I came to the working environment of what I studied, and somebody noticed me. My then boss noticed me, and we were like, so weird, because I would engage in conversations, and I'd ask, because I have a very curious mind, which is also quite strange as an introvert, because you're like, okay, ask, embrace that, ask, push through those emotions, because it's through that somebody noticed me, and they're like, hey, we actually want to send you on a different site, a site where no first year has ever gone, and we want you to give it a try. And it was through that experience that opened up a whole new world of entrepreneurial development for me, and it was through that experience that I was like, I started toying with the idea of, I started asking questions around that world, and I had audience, because I'd ask him, hey, what happens when you do this and this? I see you go to these meetings, what do you present? Who are we affecting on the ground? And it was through that and going on site and putting these dots together where I was like, I actually like developing people. I like opportunities where I can lean in and assist, or take a look at something and move it around and strategize and optimize, and so where you start is definitely not where you're gonna end up. So that's number one. And number two, do not under any circumstance compare yourself. Switch off that comparative mode. You are you. No one's ever gonna be you, and no one is ever gonna coexist in this timeline as you are. So you have your own journey to walk, and it's for you to discover. So don't compare yourself, because it's going to kill your gift, or any way for you to even find that gift. It's okay to admire others, to be like, hey, I really like how she is, I like how she carries herself, I like how she's being, a boss in this space, I love how he's doing this. It's okay, give the recognition, but it's not you, so don't now tomorrow change and be like, hey, since I want to be like Busi, you are not Busi, I want to think like Mandisa. You are not Mandisa, you are you. So you only have this amount of time, which is not even guaranteed, to be you and do you and grow in you and your gift. So don't compare yourself. You are where you are, and you're gonna be okay. Right. And number three, especially for those who are in entrepreneurship, because I also dabbled in that space. Don't get married to your idea. You find it so nice. We want a lifelong relationship.
This is the one that's supposed to make me the million.
Yes, I know you like it, but you said it's my gift. But it was such a rude awakening for me to just also, because I learned it from Vusita Bewan. When he first said it, I'm like, I don't you know like, no. As you said, but I see a thing here. There's a thing here. But on the other side of that coin, it's be open. Somebody can mention something that can just make it better. Somebody can just make a small comment or criticize how you, so also with that criticism that comes from the people you are engaging with, your community that you have built around, right? It's not, the criticism should not be interpreted as, hey, we are hater. These haters, they wanna, no, sometimes it's not hatred. Sometimes it's just a thought from a different perspective, and that could add so much value to your original idea, So be adaptive, man. Be adaptive. That's what those words really mean. Not to be married to your idea. I don't want to share. No, share. Be open. Be adaptive. Improve. It builds on that failure. Failing forward. You may have started somewhere, but hey, we're moving with this thing and it's growing. This baby is growing. It's now walking, and that's what we want. We want it to have, a life, a personality, a good story, and to be value adding to others. At the end of the day, so yeah, that is.
I think the being married, don't be married to the idea. It's such an interesting thing to unpack, right? Because it's, what do you get married to? Get married to the why you're doing what you're doing, and not the how you're doing it. Because the how can change and take shapes. The why stays the same, right? If your why is to empower, that stays the same. But the how you go about empowering then changes and shifts, right? And also not being married to the outcome. And it links to the failure discussion we just had, right?
Yeah.
Because the outcome is, I'm gonna do it this way and I'm expecting this outcome. And you keep pursuing this outcome, and if it's not happening the way you thought it should happen, you feel like it's not success. Or you aren't able to see any other opportunity or any other way. And I mean, we see this a lot when we are engaging with entrepreneurs, right? They're like, this is the goal that I set, I wanted to achieve this. And the focus is so much on that goal where you're like, no, but here's an opportunity. Come meet so and so. There could be an opportunity here. But because a person is married to the outcome, the idea of what the success should look like, then you're not able to move from that. So yeah.
I also wanna, that is a very important thing that you touched on, married to the outcome and married to the how. Because now you might be in, if you're so rigid, you might even be with the wrong people. You might be with the wrong people who would completely catapult you in the future. So that adaptability. And towards that outcome, is it's needed, it's important.
That hit hard. Because the teachings are, if you stand for nothing, you fall for everything. So that's the background that then I would apply when I'm trying to make sure that I'm successful in whatever I've decided to do. But it's similar to failing and embracing that and failing forward. This one about getting married to the why and not the how has really hit home. That was, because it then starts to undo that learning that where I've come from and from my experience personally, where I've been told if you stand for nothing, you'll fall for everything. That was, my mind is blown, absolutely blown, and I like that it's really opened up how to then approach a situation and how to then apply your thinking to a situation, to people, to get married to the why and not the how.
I was chatting to a friend who is also an entrepreneur, and they had closed down one of their businesses, and they were going through the emotions of being disappointed, losing something that they worked hard for, and so forth. But in that conversation, we're just talking about, but the fact that she saw that business through to that point, you know, although it's not, it didn't achieve what she wanted to achieve, but the fact that she had gotten it to that point where she could get it to was a success.
Yeah.
To that point, whether it's 3 years, if you could get it to 3 years, that is success, because there's lessons that you would have learned. You would have been more resilient. You would have learned more about yourself, more about building a team, more about the industry. And if you could not take it to the next level because of financial reasons or whatever reasons, that should count as success because you did it. You were in it, you know? So yeah, we're just having that conversation and defining success, because sometimes when a person closes down their business, they can say, I was unsuccessful in this. But the fact that you ran it, did you give it your all? Did you put in effort? Yes, that is success. Did you show up? Did you do everything you could have done to build this business? Yes, that is success. Not the outcome that you would have desired or the general outcome that the market desires out of that business. Yeah.
And for the workplace, that way of thinking helps when you have to make a decision as to stay in a job or to change. So you might have worked really hard on your CV and on the interviews, and you got the job, and you're into your first job, and everyone's celebrating with you. Well done. You know, now we see, you know, the fruits of the 4 years in university, and then you realize a year in that I'm not happy in this job. You know, and you've checked all the boxes, so it's not because you're ungrateful, it's not because you are dragging your feet, but it's really because it's not speaking to your why, and it's just the timing is off. Like it's not the right time for you to be with these people or with this organization, and then you have to make that decision now. I need to actually say my goodbyes. You know, and we often feel like we have to stay in if the contract was 2 years or 3 years, I must complete the contract. That's the only way that I qualify as successful. Is I did my contract, I did my time, you know. But I think, as you said, Lucy, some really nice thoughts that even I won't hold is that, but you've done your very best through that moment. You know, even in that moment, and it's moments, not ever one moment, of realizing that it's time to let go, this is not working out, you're still doing work. Because it takes work to have that realization and apply the thinking, as difficult as it is, and get to a point where you can say, okay, I must tender my resignation. I must have this conversation with my manager. And so forth. So I think if people can just also keep that in mind, that even in the workplace, if things don't go as planned, things don't work out, you haven't failed, because you've done your very best to that moment, and all of that work you put in is now setting you up for the next thing.
If I may, sometimes, because I'm looking at my journey, right, from my first career, it was lovely, you know, and making the jump wasn't, it was more out of a curious state. Sometimes it's not that you're unhappy, that you want to change, but sometimes you just have that niggling feeling that, man, you know, you've rediscovered a whole new level of your why, and you just want to give it a try, you know. And yes, you get scared that, hey, what if now I'm leaving a comfort zone, your security, you know, and now I'm jumping straight into the pan, you know, and I don't know what to expect. It's okay, you know, that's still okay. But also just being okay with that decision that, you know, I'm not failing because I've studied this much and I've been in this industry for like half a decade now. I'm establishing myself and now I want to start, way back way. And I'm going to start from absolute scratch.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's okay.
Yeah.
You know, make the jump, make the discovery. You know, you gonna get, bruised and, you're gonna invest. It's blood, sweat, and tears all over again, but it's worth it.
Yes.
And it's
Yes.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm glad I made the jump,
Yeah.
looking back still, even with those emotions, how scared I was. I really also love this that I'm doing. And also I love this,
Yeah.
so I had to just make the peace, weigh, and then start the turning over that leaf, starting again.
Yeah. I love that. There's so many people who are like, I'm going to start over. I've been in this career, I've been doing this for 10 years, now I must start over. You are never starting over because whatever you've learned, the experiences that you've had from the day you were born, they're all carried over to that moment where you're transitioning to a new career. There's no starting over. You might go into something that has different technicalities, different language that requires different skills, but nobody ever starts completely new. You bring like a balance sheet. It's like you always had an opening balance. It's never at zero because you've got skills, you've got knowledge, you've built character that you bring into whatever new career, industry, or space that you go into. So it's never on a zero base. And the thing about you spoke about knowing when to quit, right? I had this conversation just 2 days ago, like, when do you know when to quit? And for me personally, I know that I struggle with quitting, like, I'm not going to quit. And I don't know unless what. And I have to evaluate sometimes whether I need to quit. Like, it's tough for me because I generally don't like quitting. But I think when you can feel that somebody else can honor the position that you're in much more than you, then you need to move. Because sometimes we won't see it, right? You know that your heart is not in it anymore. You know that you're not honoring it anymore completely. That somebody out there is looking for that very same position that you're sitting in. And you're like, let me just try this. There's somewhere else where I could be. I'm just doing this for the meantime. If you're having that conversation, move for someone else. It's an ecosystem. Move where you can give your complete heart and let somebody else who can give your role the heart, the effort, and everything that it needs come into that role. Because that also speaks to honoring not just yourself, but honoring the whole ecosystem, honoring other people as well. So I think just move. Let other people do what you don't desire anymore, but what they desire now in that season.
But it's hard, right? And if you're young, especially, it's hard to quit because you go back home and you ask, why did you leave that idea? Why did you leave that job? This bills to pay, that you have to suck it up. And our parents, our grandparents used to get gold watches, big gold watches and paintings for 50 years of service. 1 year and you're out, or 3 years and you're out. What do you mean? Right. So I can imagine what it's like for a young person who is seeing the need to honor the place where they're at. That I'm not giving this thing my best. I'm not the best person for this thing. I actually want to find the thing that I'm best at, but it's also battling. But how do I phrase this to my parents? In a way that doesn't sound like I'm being ungrateful and I'm
Yeah.
just throwing caution to the wind,
Yeah.
but I'm actually trying to think about purpose,
Mm.
vision, alignment.
Mm.
You know,
Mm.
and our parents never spoke that language of
Yeah.
purpose, vision,
No.
alignment. They spoke
Uh-uh.
the language of bills
Yeah.
and getting people to
Yeah.
school,
Yeah.
self-security.
Yeah. Just get it done
Yeah.
and have
Yeah.
tolerance.
Yes.
Just get it done and have tolerance. And there is merit to that type of thinking because also you don't want a situation where, like, you don't want to be the type of professional when you just don't feel like doing something.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, this is not for me. I just don't feel. It doesn't resonate. When it gets tough, you're like, oh, it doesn't resonate anymore. Sometimes it's because it's just tough. And you don't want to face the challenge. It's not that it doesn't resonate anymore. It's just tough and you don't want to face the challenge. You want it a bit easier. We're human beings, we like comfort, we like ease. And that comes very naturally to us. So I think you have to balance the two, that am I now wanting to move because this is not easy anymore? This has become tough and challenging. And deep down I feel like I don't have what it takes. So those are the conversations I think that you need to have honestly with yourself. Otherwise you're gonna be hopping from one employer to another or from one business to another because you're like, this industry is just hard, they don't give people opportunities. Sometimes you must just, do it. Get up, do what you need to do. Have that resilience, persevere.
Yeah, you took the words exactly out of my mouth. I was going to say it's a fine balance between trying to build resilience and also trying to see things through because you never know, and also trying to be true to yourself where you're like, okay, but maybe not this thing, but let me try something else, and like not then letting external or like other things influence your decision, because people don't want to be judged. They don't want to. It's quite a fine balance, I think. But yes, with that, you're saying ask yourself the questions that will then give you the answers. Whether are you doing this just because you don't feel like it? Are you doing it because it's not being true to the why of are you making that decision because it's not being true to what you then wanted, to see as your why? So asking yourself those questions will perhaps then assist in guiding you in making those decisions.
Absolutely. So what are your three?
Oh,
The top three.
Excellent. So it's so strange because in and amongst what we've discussed, my three have also been a part of that. And the one thing I mentioned right at the beginning was about embracing the learning curve. Learning never stops. So learn from the experiences, learn from the challenges, learn from the good times, learn from the bad times. Take it as an opportunity to learn as much as possible because it never ends. It opens you up to other experiences. And this can apply across the board. So that's the first thing. Embrace the learning curve and remember that learning never ends. And also I think knowing that learning never ends, because you can get comfortable in a certain place. Then see what else you can learn within that space, or how else you can then improve that space that you're in. I was listening to, it was actually this morning on the way into the office, I was just listening to radio, and there was a caller that called into the station, and they were like, you know what, they were talking about what sort of gives you an indication of whether a job interview is going well or not, both from the interviewer or from the interviewee. So the one lady was like, she was conducting the interview, and she asked someone to do something practically, just so that she could ascertain if this person had the skills or not. And from that, she could clearly see that this is someone who's just taking a chance. So what she then said was, I want to encourage people to learn new things.
Mm.
If you are passing by someone's desk and they have a moment, learn about what they're doing, just to upskill yourself in a very informal way. It doesn't have to be formal all the time. Very informally.
Yeah.
She said that's how she learned. She was she said she was from a graphic design background,
Yeah.
and how she learned was when she'd see that one of the computers in the office was now free. She was actually an office assistant admin person, and when she'd see that the computer was free, she'd go and try see what she could fiddle with and try to, and she's now well versed in the graphic design space. She's now interviewing people in that space. So it was so encouraging. The learning never ends, and when it ends, you must ask yourself, what's going on? What's happening? Have you stagnated? Because it adds to building your growth and upskilling yourself. So that's the first point. The second point again was touched on, and Mandisa, you were so eloquent in how you put it with your points about mentorship and sponsorship. Mine was around networking and collaboration.
Yeah.
We hear this so often. Sometimes it's not about what you know, but who you know. These people could catapult you to the next level, like you mentioned. Even if they're coming from a point of criticism against something that you mentioned, if someone in your network is, it seems like criticism to you, take that information and use it to build on what you are working towards. And just that feedback I had written here is a gift.
Yeah.
That feedback is a gift. We must start seeing it as a gift and not something that's negative towards what you're trying to achieve or towards you. So seeing feedback that you're given as a gift makes us ensure that we can make use of it and grow from there. So that was my second point around the networks, collaboration, and utilizing those. And I do completely understand that from an introvert point of view. It takes a lot of effort to put yourself out there. But we're not saying start speaking in front of crowds and rallies. It could be quite personal. Again, drawing from personal experience, I'm a very personal person. So I do so well with the one-on-one networking as opposed to the group networking, where I start feeling overwhelmed and overstimulated and overthinking and overprocessing that when I leave there, I'm exhausted and I'm like, oh my goodness, so much talking. So even if it's one-on-one, small group networking and collaboration, I feel that it's quite key. And then what was now? I'm trying to think what my third point was. So it was embracing the learning curve, networking and collaboration, and seeing the feedback that you're given as a gift to ensure that you make use of it. And I think I'll end there. Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah. I like the feedback. I also had it in the list of things. And I think sometimes we expect feedback to be given, but asking for feedback is really helpful. And I found it to be really useful. Because a person might be looking at you and not thinking you need that feedback. They might think you already know that you are good at graphic design or good at public speaking. And so they don't think they need to tell you that. But if you ask them, hey, what do you think are my strengths? What do you think are the things I need to work on? Then you give people a chance to think about you. And then thoughtfully give you that gift, of feedback. And I think it also just makes you look good. I think people just appreciate somebody who is willing to always hear how others are viewing them. And I think that what I think about myself is enough, but they want to hear, what do you think? How do you perceive it? I think it really also helps you in relationships and in the networks.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good one, because also sometimes the yeah, there is a need for that proactiveness and giving
Yes.
feedback and not waiting for the quarterly review or make me wait.
Mm.
And then you'll be the one saying, they don't give feedback. And, I feel like I'm not appreciated. But you don't, you don't really have the conversation. Have you asked, So yeah, I think that's a good one because it speaks to that proactiveness that's needed when you are building your career or when you're building a business. You need that proactiveness. If you're an entrepreneur, you need to go to your client and say, how are you experiencing my service?
Yes, exactly.
What don't you like?
Exactly.
And what do you like? Going to even your suppliers, your team, the people around you, and say, what do you like and what don't you like? What could we do better? So I think that is so critical in building solid careers, And I'll give my top three, which align to what all of you have mentioned. My first one is from the time you enter the workplace or from the time you start your business, you are building your brand through your everyday actions. So when we hear a lot about brand building, we think it's something that is external and we must build it. The brand is the colors, what it stands for, the tagline, and all of those things. Those things matter, but what matters most about your brand, what people really remember about who you are as a brand, is through your everyday actions. So how you show up, how you treat people, how you speak, what you speak about. Even if you are a first-time employee in the workplace, from the day you enter those offices, you are building a brand. You are building a brand of being known as the early bird, the one who's always late for meetings, the one who sits at the cooler gossiping, or the one who's always helping, the team player. Every single action that you take and every single thing that you say, you must know that it's either adding positively to your brand or it's taking away from your brand. So it then helps you to have that consciousness and that sensitivity about how you show up. Your brand is building itself. You can come and say, oh no, this is who I am. You can present yourself a certain way, you can present certain results, but know for sure that in the day you do, in the things that you do daily, whether people are watching or not, your brand is being built. So for me, that is the one thing that I would really share as my top three, because you hear people complain about certain things in the workplace or in business. But when you look at the way they show up, you're like, are you sure they are the problem? If you are saying, I never get opportunities and you're 30 minutes late for a meeting, who's the problem? It's the small things that count, the small things. And that for me also links to having integrity in the workplace and in business. Always honoring your commitments and doing what is right. So if you promise, I'm going to do this, do it. Don't do it because I will be assessed on this. Do it because you said you'll do it. And if something has changed, communicate something has changed. Is it fine if I don't do this anymore? That's fine. But I think it's those little things. If you honor your commitments, you have integrity. And integrity is something that we should all have, but we have a deficit of it in the market, in industries. Because people just don't honor their commitments. They don't honor their word. So if you have integrity, then you build a strong brand, a brand that can last, a brand that people take seriously. And then my third, I don't know if it's my third or second now, is own your journey. And I think someone spoke about don't compare yourself to other people. Own your journey. Choose a career, choose things to do in alignment with your skills, in alignment with what fulfills you, in alignment with your gifts and talents, and not with what is popular. Even if now this industry is booming and people are making a lot of money and you can earn the highest salary, if you know that that industry is not in alignment with who I am at all, then don't go into it, even though it's booming. And it's a hard thing to do. It's really a hard thing to do, but it also speaks to having integrity, because now you have integrity with yourself. With the things that other people may not know, but you know. You know what's true to you. You know what honors you. You know what's important to you. So even, honor that. Honor that through by owning your own journey and trusting in your own journey and trusting that it will lead you to success because it's yours, right? And no one else's. I'm gonna squeeze in one. I know it's but I can't help it. I can't help it. But maybe it tags on to building your brand. It's invest in yourself. Invest in yourself from the time you start working and from the time you start running a business. Invest in yourself, and investing in yourself starts off by having a good understanding of who you are. So do your self-assessment, ask yourself, who am I? What do I like? What am I good at? What flows naturally out of me? What do people appreciate about me? What comes through strongly in me? And what are the things that are barriers that hold me back from being my true self? What are my weaknesses? And in understanding yourself, then you know what areas to invest in so that you can grow. And investing in yourself also means not waiting for someone to say, oh, I see that you're good at this. How about we take you to this course? Find a way to invest in yourself. Find a way to pay for yourself. If you really truly believe in your journey, in where you're going to invest in yourself. Put whatever money needs to be put, time and effort in you growing in whatever respective industry or business that you're in.
I love that one because when often at work there'll be a budget for development. You're competing for this budget with many other people. They have to prove that you excuse me, that you are most deserving of it at this time, right? And if you can show to the organization that here's how I've already embedded myself in this way. I've done it. I've watched countless YouTube videos on this subject and done practice tasks. And now I need a formal qualification because I think that will help. And then you motivate. That application stands out more than someone who just says, I need 50,000 rands to do my diploma in this. And there are no signs or indicators that this benefits the company, but also that they have they've taken some initiative already to invest in themselves. So I really like that. And then investing in yourself is not about just spending money on yourself. Always, right? There's YouTube. Read books. Talk to people. Udemy, Coursera. They usually have free offerings in there as well. And the free stuff. The more you do the paid stuff. That's a good one. Invest in yourself.
I like it. And I'm also just thinking, investing in yourself also, so that's intellectually, but also emotionally. Little things like break time, because I'm also thinking about what you said about you're building your brand from the moment you walk through those doors and through your actions, learn to take a break, learn to process information, learn to have time to reflect and to listen to yourself, so that's a psychological investment in yourself, because now you can start asking these questions: who am I? And taking stock of what you've done in the past week or the past month, and assessing how you are showing up. So that is also an investment, and I don't think we talk about it, enough, or even pose it or just put it out there, But I'm glad for today that we can actually just have the bullet point at least. Like Department of Investment. What does an investment look like? What's emotional investment? What's psychological investment? What is intellectual investment? Because all these things, they are your building blocks to that brand. And it's coming across in how you are showing up. And that's what we're encouraging.
Yeah, absolutely. Love that.
Good. Thank you so much, everybody. I'm going to just hand over for final remarks, and we can then bring our session to an end.
It went over time. I just look at the time now, I'm like, oh, okay. We've went over time. Final remarks, Mandisa?
I'm gonna go with the investing as well. I think that ties it all together. Small and big ways. If you're not getting something from the space, look for it elsewhere. Like look for a way to get it. If your manager isn't the most coaching friendly kind of manager, then look for a coach in the company. Look for somebody that you can have conversations with about your work and not just check on tasks. And that's just investing in yourself. I really like that.
For me, it's your brand is built on your daily actions. So if you've been working for the past 10 years, 15, 20, or you're just starting, or you've been running your business, reflect on the brand that you've built. Not what you say or who you say you are, but reflect on the actions that you've taken in the past years to now start understanding where you are in terms of your brand. Start working on your day-to-day actions so that you can build a brand that fully represents who you are.
For me, the big takeaway that just encapsulates everything in my mind is own your journey. Take ownership of that journey. There's only one you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. From my side, it's about, I've just gained an understanding from the session today that success has many faces. So whether you think you're failing, whether you think you've taken the wrong path, whether it just looks different for each person. The journeys are different. And so acknowledge the steps that you've taken. Just make sure you take steps and acknowledge those steps and give yourself a pat on the back today for having done that. And just to encourage everybody out there and ourselves to continue and believe in ourselves and in our whys. Thank you.
Thank you so. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, colleagues. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Hope this empowers you. This helps you navigate the world of work and business. And happy Mandela Day. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.